Just don't throw it. Like, if you throw it, just throw it. Like, let's be reasonable.
How pointy are the pointers?
They're pointy.
By the way, contusion is bleeding under the skin.
Thanks, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Doing an unbooking today.
Unbooking.
And we're doing a book today by Peter Thiel. He's the inventor, founder of PayPal. Did that in 1998. Made a lot of money since then, hadn't he?
$170 of it's mine.
Paulie had an experience with PayPal where he had an experience with PayPal. Also early investor in Facebook, SpaceX, Airbnb, a lot of things. The guy's made some money investing. Knows a little bit about startups, and that's kind of what this book is about today. His net worth is $2.3 billion. That's a little bit of cash. One thing I thought was interesting, besides being the founder of PayPal, an early investor in Facebook, I think he was the first outside investor in Facebook, is that he started the Thiel Fellowship. It says here that they were encouraging learning before schooling, and that kind of sparked a national debate. So I don't remember that, maybe because I was younger and I just didn't care, but it's something I want to look into. And it kind of was reminiscent of kind of even the way that Einstein talked about education, that he had some hangups on the way that the system of education kind of worked and how it can alienate some students or, Anyway, so I thought that was interesting, something I'm going to look up later, and we might do a podcast about schooling versus learning, because that would be interesting. But right now we're doing an unbooking on this Peter Thiel book that hopefully is not going to be thrown too hard. Don't be weird. See, you always go the opposite way. Give me the book. Why him? Today's unbooking is 0 to 1. It's a very pointy book. The subtitle here, and I'm going to get to this in a minute, Notes on Startups, or How to Build the Future. So first impressions of this book. Let's start with the subtitle. For some reason, this bothered me. Notes on Startups, or How to Build the Future. I don't know why that bothered me. It just seemed kind of pretentious to me. Does anybody get that vibe?
Is it the comma?
Maybe. It's almost like he's like, I'm going to make this statement, but it also carries this meaning as well. I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me. It just kind of bothered me. I don't know about you, but for some reason, it just seemed rather pretentious to me. Just put How to Build the Future. Maybe he just had to get them both. Maybe he was just struggling. He couldn't figure it out, and that's what it is, and I'm just being a jerk. I don't know. That was one of my first impressions when I picked up the book. I was like, okay. But then, as you read, that theme kind of continues. My impression of the book was really my impression of Peter Thiel himself. Don't know the guy. All I did was read this book. That's really all I know. I don't even think I've watched an interview with him or seen him or heard him speak. I don't know. I'm going to be fair to him in a minute, but let me say it this way first, is that he was kind of feeling himself, kind of like a genius in his own mind. I say I'm going to be fair because he spends a lot of the book talking about how important it is to rely on other people and to notice your own shortcomings and things like that. So I'll be fair to him on that. But there was a lot of pretentious is the only way I know how to put it. And that may not even be the right word, because I don't even know what that word means. There's moments in the book where it just seems like he's just entertaining himself with his own intelligence. Like I didn't even really matter in the equation. That just may be my impression, but that's what we do here. I give my first impression. That being said, there's a lot of valuable information in this book. It really is a good book for people who are thinking about starting something. And he spends a lot of time talking about technology and how technology is improving on something or that's something new. And he talks about that in the book, that this is really for people who just want to do something or start something new. So if that's you, this is on topic. A couple things that I liked out of this book is he talks about how he went for a clerkship or something at one time, and he alludes to it, but he didn't get it. And he says at the time he was devastated, but then now it's kind of like people say to him, so aren't you glad you didn't get that clerkship, because all of those other things wouldn't have happened. So it's just another good insight into one of these billionaires' lives who at one point were really disappointed or devastated by something that happens to them, but it really left the door open for them to do something like PayPal, like investing in Facebook. So I thought that was really interesting, that this is yet another example of somebody who used a failure as a stepping stone, or who had a failure and yet it was the thing that let them continue on a path to do something that was a lot bigger than just getting the clerkship. All due respect to the clerks. Another point that he brings up in this book, especially since it's for startups, somebody doing a new thing, is that you should start small intentionally. And he talks about the group of collaborators even, but specifically the market that you're going to go after if you're starting something, that you should intentionally start small. He mentions Jeff Bezos and how his original vision for Amazon was to basically own the entire online retail market, which pretty much happened. But how when he started, Bezos intentionally started with just books because he wanted to start small, focused on an intentional market. And that's what he did. So I thought that was interesting too. A couple of things he points out initially is that he had a failure or a disappointment that led to an open door for him to do something great. And then the other thing was, if you're going to start something, start small and then you can scale. And I thought that example of Amazon was a perfect example. Another interesting point here, we talk some, especially within our friend group, just about not being a victim and taking responsibility and doing things. And he talks about in his book a person he calls the definite optimist. And he defines this person as somebody who believes the future will be better than the present if he or she plans and works to make it better. So instead of just accepting things as they are, a definite optimist is somebody who goes, you know what? The future can look like this. They can have a better vision of the future, and that person actually believes if they plan and work towards it that it'll happen. A good thing to note too is that somebody like him, the reason he probably believes that was probably him, beforehand. Favorite quote. This is on page 108 in this version here. He says, when you start something, the first and most crucial decision you make is whom to start it with. I thought that was really good because a lot of times it's like when you're starting, you have this vision that you're trying to hash out and all these things you want to do. But this is a very important thing. And this is what I said earlier when I would be fair to him, that even though the book came across as kind of pretentious and he was kind of full of himself a little bit, I don't feel fair saying that. But yeah, sure, whatever. He goes and makes these statements too. When you start something, the first and most crucial decision you make is whom to start it with. And it just shows he has this view of a startup as when you have an idea, the team and the collaborators you put around you really determine the trajectory of that thing. And it's true. That's why I chose Use Guys. Use Guys. Take that out. Don't leave that in there. Random highlight. Here we go. In the real world, outside economic theory, every business is successful exactly to the extent that it does something others cannot. He's talking about monopolies here. All right, read it or beat it. You have a limited amount of time on this planet. There's a lot of books you could read. Is this a book that you should read, in my opinion? Or listen to an audiobook if you refuse.
Because that is valid.
Yes, you're receiving the information. It's just a little different. We don't have to get into that debate now. Limited amount of time on this planet, a lot of books. Should I read this one? I gotta be honest, no. Again, any book that I say that to, there's always value within the book. I didn't enjoy this read. I didn't fall in love with Peter Thiel's personality, at least as it came through on the book. It was one of those books after I got 2 or 3 chapters in, I just wanted to finish it. If you're going to start a business, if you want to start something, do something new, you could find value in this book, sure. But man, I could name 50 other books I read that I would read before this one. So yeah, it was all right.
Beat it.
If you've read any of these books, let us know about it. Seriously, if I messed up the explanation, if you could have done this better than me, then go ahead and do it in the comments. Subscribe, click the little bell thingy. Let's have a good time. Really want to hear from you. And what books do you want to see unbooked? Let me know. Hit us up. Here's your mug.